Helena Petrovna von Hahn, more popularly known as Madame Blavatsky or HPB, came from a noble family in Ukraine. Her father, Peter von Hahn, was a descendant of German nobility, while her mother, Helena Andreevna Hahn, came from one of the oldest families of Russian nobility and was also a celebrated novelist. As a child, she would often have visions and displayed clairvoyance as well as other metaphysical phenomena. Years later, she traveled throughout Europe and the Middle East studying under various teachers and Sufi saints. She met her teacher, an Indian yogi named Master Morya, in London, who later directed her to go to New York in the United States. Once there, she founded the Theosophical Society. In 1885, she started to write The Secret Doctrine, which was finally published 3 years later in 1888. The Secret Doctrine has been acknowledged by many as one of the most remarkable books in the world. It is considered to be the Bible of Theosophy, a source book of the esoteric tradition that outlines the fundamental tenets of the secret doctrine of the past ages. Published as 2 volumes during her lifetime, The Cosmogenesis and Anthropogenesis, The Secret Doctrine explains the origin and evolution of the universe and of humanity through an account of root races dating back millions of years. Although the writer of The Secret Doctrine, Madame Blavatsky often expressed that she was only the compiler of ancient wisdom that was passed on to her. The true authors of the work were her teachers, the Mahatmas, or great souls, who were the guardians of the secret wisdom of the ages. Today on Between Master and Disciples, we invite you to listen to excerpts from Volume 2 of The Secret Doctrine.
The Sons of God and the Sacred Island. The legend given in Isis in relation to a portion of the globe which science now concedes to have been the cradle of humanity, though it is but one of the 7 cradles, in truth, ran condensed and now explained as follows.
Tradition says, and the records of the Great Book, or the Book of Zion, explain that long before the days of Adam and his inquisitive wife Heva, where now are found but salt lakes and desolate barren deserts, there was a vast inland sea which extended over Middle Asia, north of the proud Himalayan range and its western prolongation, an island which for its unparalleled beauty had no rival in the world, was inhabited by the last remnant of the race which preceded ours. This race could live with equal ease in water, air, or fire, for it had an unlimited control over the elements. These were the sons of God, not those who saw the daughters of men, but the real Elohim, though in the Oriental Kabbalah they have another name. It was they who imparted nature's secrets to men and revealed to them the ineffable and now lost Word.
This word, which is no word, has travelled once around the globe and still lingers as a far-off dying echo in the hearts of some privileged men. The hierophants of all the sacerdotal colleges were aware of the existence of this island, but the word was known only to the Java Elim, Mahachoin in another tongue, or chief lord of every college, and has passed to his successor only at the moment of death.
To continue the tradition, we have to add that the class of hierophants was divided into 2 distinct categories: those who were instructed by the sons of God of the island and who were initiated in the divine doctrine of pure revelation, and others who inhabited the lost Atlantis, if such must be its name, and who, being of another race, born sexually but of divine parents, were born with the sight, which embraced all living things and was independent of both distance and material obstacle. In short, they were the 4th race of men mentioned in the Popol Vuh, whose sight was unlimited and who knew all things at once.
Whatever there may be in these traditions, and whatever may have been the place where a civilization more ancient than that of Rome, of Greece, of Egypt, and of India was developed, it is certain that this civilization did exist, and it is highly important to science to recover its traces, however feeble and fugitive they may be.
This last tradition corroborates the one given from the records of the secret doctrine. The war mentioned between the yellow and the black men relates to a struggle between the sons of God and the sons of giants, or the inhabitants and magicians of Atlantis. The final conclusion of the author, who personally visited all the islands of Polynesia and devoted years to the study of the religion, language, and traditions of nearly all the peoples, is as follows.
As to the Polynesian continent, which disappeared at the time of the final geological cataclysms, its existence rests on such proofs that to be logical we can doubt no longer. The three summits of this continent, the Sandwich Islands, New Zealand, Easter Island, are distant from each other from 15 to 1800 leagues, and the groups of intermediate islands, Viti, Samoa, Tonga, Futuna, Ovia, the Marquesas, Tahiti, Pomotou, the Gambiers, are themselves distant from these extreme points from 7 to 800 to 1,000 leagues.
All navigators agree in saying that the extreme and the central groups could never have communicated in view of their actual geographical position and with the insufficient means they had at hand. It is physically impossible to cross such distances in a pirogue without a compass and travel months without provisions.
On the other hand, the Aborigines of the Sandwich Islands, of Viti, of New Zealand, of the central groups, of Samoa, Tahiti, etc., had never known each other, had never heard of each other before the arrival of the Europeans. And yet each of these people maintained that their island had at one time formed part of an immense stretch of land, which extended towards the west, on the side of Asia. And all, brought together, were found to speak the same language, to have the same usages, the same customs, the same religious belief, and all to the question, "Where is the cradle of your race?" For sole response, extended their hand toward the setting sun.
Geographically, this description clashes slightly with the facts in the secret records, but it shows the existence of such traditions, and this is all one cares for. For as there is no smoke without fire, so a tradition must be based on some approximate truth. In its proper place, we will show modern science fully corroborating the above and the traditions of the secret doctrine with regard to the two lost continents. The Easter Island relics are, for instance, the most astounding and eloquent memorials of the primeval giants. They are as grand as they are mysterious, and one has but to examine the heads of the colossal statues that have remained unbroken on that island to recognize in them at a glance the features of the type and character attributed to the fourth race giants.
They seem of one caste, though different in features, that of a distinctly sensual type, such as the Atlanteans. The Datius and Atalanteans are represented to have in esoteric Hindu books. Compare these with the faces of some other colossal statues in Central Asia, those near Bamiyan, for instance, the portrait statues. Tradition tells us of Buddhas belonging to previous Manvantaras, of those Buddhas and heroes who are mentioned in the Buddhist and Hindu works as men of fabulous size, the good and holy brothers of their wicked co-uttering brothers generally. As Ravana, the giant king of Lanka, was the brother of Kumbhakarna, all descendants of the gods through the rishis, and thus, like Titan and his enormous brood, all heaven's firstborn.
These Buddhas, though often spoilt by the symbolical representation of the great pendant ears, show a suggestive difference perceived at a glance between the expression of their faces and that of the Easter Isle statues. They may be of one race, but the former are sons of gods, the latter the brood of mighty sorcerers. All these are reincarnations, however, and apart from unavoidable exaggerations in popular fancy and tradition, they are historical characters.
When did they live? How long ago lived the two races, the third and the fourth, and how long after did the various tribes of the fifth begin their strife, the wars between good and evil? In his third Hibbert lecture, 1887, Professor Sayce of Oxford, speaking of newly discovered Assyrian and Babylonian cylinders, referred at length to Ea, the god of wisdom, now identified with the Oanes of Berosus, the half-man, half-fish who taught the Babylonians culture and the art of writing. This Oanes, to whom, thanks only to the biblical deluge, an antiquity of hardly 1500 BC had been hitherto allowed, is now spoken of in these terms.
His city was Eridu, which stood 6,000 years ago on the shores of the Persian Gulf. The name means the good city, a particularly holy spot, since it was the center from which the earliest Chaldean civilization made its way to the north. As the culture god was represented as coming from the sea, it was possible that the culture of which Eridu was the seat was of foreign importation. We now know that there was intercourse or communication and dealings at a very early period between Chaldea and the Sinaitic Peninsula, as well as with India. The statues discovered by the French at Tello, dating from at latest 4000 BC, were made of the extremely hard stone known as diorite, and the inscriptions on them stated the diorite to have been brought from Mazan, that is, the Sinaitic Peninsula, which was then ruled by the pharaohs.
The statues are known to resemble in general style the diorite statue Khephren, the builder of the second pyramid, while, according to Mr. Petrie, the unit of measurement marked on the plan of the city, which one of the Tel Lo figures holds on his lap, is the same as that employed by the pyramid builders. Teak wood has been found at Maghar, or of the Chaldees, although that wood is an Indian special product. Add to this that an ancient Babylonian list of clothing mentions sidhu or muslins, explained as vegetable cloth. Muslin, best known now as Dhaka muslin, known in Chaldea as Hindu or Sindhu, and teak wood used 4,000 years BC.
We thank you for your kind presence for today's episode of Between Master and Disciples. Now, please stay tuned to Supreme Master Television for Animal World, Our Co-Inhabitants, coming up next right after Noteworthy News. May all your noble dreams come true.
For more details, please visit www.suprememastertv.com/BMD